Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask a few questions, and I apologize for having to step out for a few minutes. This is something that really, really touches me. And what I'd like to know is I've really been working on regulatory issues that have impacted everything in the country. And this is for our researchers. Are there any unnecessarily burdensome regulations from the FDA or other agencies that you think we could modify, change, correct, so that it doesn't slow or restrict cancer research?
So I'll give it a shot first. So I do work pretty closely with FDA. I hold investigator-initiated INDs, and I have to say that the FDA is very, very helpful. It helps us develop more rapidly drugs because of their large experience in drug development. I think there's been reorganization recently, to your point, that has really helped by bringing cancer under one leadership. It's been very, very helpful. I think the progress we've made in cancer drug development, immunotherapy drugs being a specific area, has really helped to push the FDA to see that we need a more rapid way of getting drugs developed. And so from my point of view, I really see the FDA as being very helpful, and the FDA has been modifying how they do business based on the changing environment.
One of my very close friends has a brain tumor, and he's going to India for treatment. It's a treatment that's been approved for testing at Johns Hopkins for Alzheimer's, but not for treatment of the tumor, and it seems to be working. And one of my concerns is some of the impediments that the FDA puts there for people who want to make that choice. And rather than having to go to India, to be able to get that treatment here and give them a fighting chance. And that's one of my issues. Another thing is, do you know off the top of your head how much of the NIH, did you want to respond to that, Ms. Carr?
I would like to, actually, because the community that we're involved in with these families that have suffered with children with DIPG, unfortunately, a lot of times they're forced to go abroad as well. Yeah. They're ahead of the game in Australia and the UK, Germany, even Mexico in some senses, and they have no choice.
Let's say people think when you go to India, you're going off for some exotic treatment, and he's going to Bangalore, which is like our Silicon Valley. I mean, this is very high tech. It's sophisticated, and just from a personal perspective, and I think from the perspective of a lot of patients, we need to allow that to happen here. The patient needs to have that choice. But I
totally agree. When there's so much at risk and there's so much on the line, parents at least are willing to do whatever it takes.
That's right.
And when you're telling someone there's a 0% chance, and someone saying, "Well, we have this option." And would you want to try that? To be able to do that is important, I think.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you getting my attention and giving that response. I grew up in rural Northwest Alabama, and what people would consider dirt poor, and I'm particularly interested in what the Huntsman Cancer Research is doing in rural areas. Is that nationwide?
So actually, because we are surrounded by vast rural and frontier populations, we just are in a really great place in the country to make this a focus. And we believe that the work that we're doing in Utah and in the Mountain West, of course, has complete relevance to rural and frontier areas, other places. So, for example, the symptom management tool that we've developed, we know that patients undergoing chemotherapy who are rural and frontier patients drive long hours away from the medical center after their treatment, and they go back home and they are facing, debilitating, sometimes challenging side effects. And so we've developed a tool that touches base with them on a regular basis and with their caregiver And we found that that has really alleviated their symptoms quite dramatically and also reduced caregiver anxiety. So that kind of thing is a way in which we reach out and try and support our rural and frontier patients and their families during the course of their treatment. And what we're learning in Utah should be relevant around the country.
If the chairman would indulge me one more question. It's an issue that this committee has really been focused on, particularly the chairman and ranking member Cummings, and that is drug prices. And I saw a study here from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center about $3 billion wasted in cancer treatment, where the drug companies are putting more medicine in the vial than they need, knowing that it's more than is needed for the treatment. And that medicine's basically being thrown away and valued at about $3 billion. Would any of you like to comment on that? Are you aware of that? Is that something you're aware of?
No.
I would recommend it was, I've got the article here. We can, if I may, we'll enter it into the record.
Without objections, so ordered.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank the gentleman.